So now I'd like to explain Laputa's size with Buddha Tomori style. Let's measure it together. This scene is the basis of everything. As you can see, I've already written down some numbers here and there. I want you to take a look at the kite's wing. It's bent but not broken. At the end of the movie, when Pazu and Shida ride the kite, Pazu says, "It can fly if I rewire it." This means the wing isn't broken. So if we know the size of the kite, we can determine the diameter of this terrace. So how big is this kite? Let's take a closer look. This is the scene that shows the kite size clearly. This is a scene where Henry, the third son of the Dola family, is sitting in the tiger moth. When Henry is sitting there, Pazu climbs up the ladder. Later, Shida joins Pazu in a cockpit too. The size of this cockpit allows two children to fit if sitting tightly together. Therefore, assume its width is approximately 100 centimeters, which is about 1 meter. Henry was small for a member of the Dola family, and he can fit in the cockpit. So it's probably 100 centimeters or 1 meter wide. When you know the size of the cockpit and look at this scene, where the kite's wing is spread open, we can determine the size based on the ratio of the wing to the kite. In order to fly a kite with 2 passengers and no power, it is certainly necessary to have a wingspan of about 12 meters or more. The kite needs a surface area of approximately this. We can rely on Miyazaki indeed. The wingspan is 12 meters long. It's quite large. It's almost the same size as a former Japanese Navy Zero fighter. At first I thought the wingspan is probably 7 or 8 meters long, but considering it's flying 2 passengers and Pazu has to take Shida back to Gondoa, that might be too small. So 12 meters is a good size. It's impressive that the kite can fly with only wires securing it. Now that we know the length of the wingspan, we can roughly estimate the terrace size and size of the kite with a slightly bent wing after the crash. It's after the crash, so I'd like to assume the wingspan is about 8 meters wide, and the diameter of the terrace about 30 meters. Now we can determine the entire size of Laputa. If the terrace... I'm sorry, are you guys still interested? I'm having a blast. If the terrace is 30 meters in diameter, the bridge that connects the terrace to the mainland is probably 44 meters. Surprisingly, it's just slightly longer than the terrace. Now we know the bridge is 44 meters. Next, there's a scene where you can see the whole of Laputa. So if this length is 44 meters, right here, the radius from the center of Laputa to the terrace is about 335 meters. If we know the radius, we can determine the whole size. We already know that the radius here is about 335 meters. So the radius to the corridor, which is the outermost section, is 20 times larger than the terrace bridge. That means the radius of Laputa is 880 meters, and its diameter is 1,760 meters. It turned out to be a 1.7 kilometer diameter structure. It's larger than I thought. Well, how big would it be if Laputa appeared over Tokyo? Here's the Imperial Palace. How dare you, you might think. But if Laputa appears right above it saying, "Japanese, surrender!" Laputa could cover the whole Imperial Palace. It's huge. So it's about the size of the Imperial Palace. I even thought it was intentional. This time let's float Laputa above Osaka Castle. This is the map. As you can see, Laputa is almost the same size as the central area of the Osaka Castle. If you think about building a large castle just like the Imperial Palace, a realistic large castle would be around 1.7 kilometers in diameter, which is about the size of Laputa. It might be hard to imagine, and it's hard to explain too. This time I'll float Laputa over Shinjuku. If Laputa appeared over Alta in Shinjuku, the north side of Laputa would cover Okubo or Shin-Okubo area. Then the west side would cover the Metropolitan Government Office. The south side would cover beyond Yoyogi and half of Shinjuku Gyoen National Garden. The east side would cover Hanazono Dori Street, where Yoshimoto Kogyo's headquarters are. It even covers Shinjuku Shanchome area as well. That's how enormous Laputa is. Now you can see how big Laputa is. But this Laputa isn't the original size. Like I said earlier, the back of Laputa is collapsed. But even if we fix the backside, it wouldn't be the same Laputa. The actual Laputa was way bigger. The thing is, Pazu and Shita walk around Laputa, but this Laputa doesn't seem to have any homes where the dwellers would live. There are gardens, trees, and graves, but that's all they see. The reason is that the top part of Laputa is actually a temple. So it's a place to worship God. Let's see, what could be a good example? Well, imagine the Acropolis. Just like the Acropolis in Greece, a temple lies on top of Laputa. The first layer of Laputa, which is below the temple, the green area with lawn, is a space of relaxation, exclusively for the members of royalty who lived in the space. If that's the case, Laputa would only belong to them. Then what exactly was the actual Laputa originally like? 700 years ago, when Shita's ancestors abandoned Laputa, even though it had already been downsized to this, underneath it was a second layer, a castle town, where knights and warriors lived. In the third layer, the Garden of Eden, there was a huge lake and farmland, allowing people to be self-sufficient. The fourth layer, where Laputa's local people lived, had a huge structure that ordinary Laputa residents could visit as well. But these three layers have already disappeared. So how big was the original Laputa? This is what Laputa looked like originally. This picture was enlarged to almost the same size as the Laputa model. So this temple and the area where the royal family lived was at the top of the picture like this. Here to here is 1.7 kilometers. And in addition to that, this huge part was attached to the original Laputa. Okay. Now let's see. So the size of the remaining Laputa is, as I mentioned earlier, 1,760 meters in diameter, 1.7 kilometers. Then what is the original size of Laputa from here to here? Relatively speaking, the original was 5.8 kilometers in diameter and 3.7 kilometers in height. That's about the same size as Mount Fuji. So let's examine this magnificent world of Laputa from a geological perspective during the second part. Well, it's already been over an hour, but I still have more things to cover, so we'll continue the free broadcast for a little longer. Sorry about that. I've featured Laputa twice, so I thought I didn't have much left to talk about and decided to focus on a geological perspective today. But I was wrong. I'll move on to the last topic and then take a break, so hang in there.